Whether you just started riding or you've been riding for years, riding the perfect half halt might feel like a little bit of an elusive concept. In today's video, I want to break down how to properly ride the half halt and ways that I use it when I'm riding. I'm Julia, this is Rumba, and you're watching my weekly show here at the EC Network. So when I think about riding the half halt, there's a couple of things I think about. So I'll think about having contact with the reins. I'm just going to turn profile this way so you can have a little better view. I'll think about having contact on my reins, and I'll think about if you've ever seen somebody on a rowing machine at the gym where they're slightly pulling back and it's engaging these muscles at the back of our arms and through here in our back. Now, when we're riding, we don't necessarily want to be pulling or having a ton of strength in that movement, but it's more just, I think about bringing awareness to those parts of my body and asking for that half halt. So again, I'll just think about adding a little bit of weight to the reins and settling through, again, the muscles back here and in my upper back. The other thing I'll think about is a slight shift through my center. Almost like if somebody had a string on my belly button and they were pulling me back. Now it's important to not overly rotate, because right now if we're doing this, we're collapsing in the hip and we're actually a lot less stable in this position. So we don't want to change the orientation of our pelvis in the saddle, but just think about this slight shift back. Now I'm doing all of this at standing, but I'm going to go out, pick up the trot, and show you how I use this while I'm riding Rumba here. She's usually very quiet. She's a 23-year-old thoroughbred, but today it's a little bit windy, it's a little chilly, there's something going on outside of the arena she's a little concerned about. So this is going to be a great example of how you can use the half halt and how you'll want to ride it. So I'm going to go out and pick up the trot. So I'll use the half halt specifically when I'm coming around a circle and I want to bring a little bit more balance. So that first circle, the first corner we rode, she got a little bit out of balance. Right here, she's starting again. So I'm going to think about just that shift. And you could see how she came back and balanced in that moment. Again, it's very slight, so you might almost feel like you're not seeing anything at all. But it's just that tiny little shift of thinking about pulling, adding a little weight to your arms, that shift back, and I'm gonna do that again, little weight, and we can see how she takes that little bit of a shorter step. The other way I'll use half halt is if I'm riding within the gate and let's say I want to I'm asking for a little bit more trot down this side, but then I want to slow it up. I do a half halt, little half halts to keep riding in that slightly shorter stride. Some important tips when you are riding the half halt is if your horse isn't responding right away, Rumba's pretty responsive in this because we've done it quite a bit. Instead of just holding on the reins and expecting the horse to come back, try lifting. So if you lift, that's giving you the same response. What can often happen is if you start pulling and you're pulling down here, she's going to be a bad example of this, but what can happen is the horse will just brace against you, so you'll end up with your hands here and they're just bracing and pulling up, and it can also collapse you forward. Instead, in the half halt, if you think about a slight lift, what will happen is it's harder for them to brace against there, and you stay in a better, more secure position by raising your hands up when you're asking for that. You also want to make sure that you're not asking for too much of a halt. So Rumba really enjoys a downward transition. So if I am too strong with my half halt, I'll actually lose the forward motion completely. So when you are asking for the half halt, you want to make sure that you're staying really soft with your aids and not adding too much weight to the rein, depending on how sensitive your horse is. Or if you can feel like they're about to break, add a little bit of a leg cue to keep them moving forward. Again, if we're teaching anything new to a green horse or a horse that hasn't been taught the half halt before, it's really good to start by practicing this at the slower gaits. So start at the walk, ask for a slower walk. Then you can move on to the trot and work within the trot, and then canter, obviously. I find that I use half halts a good bit when I'm working in the canter, getting her to extend and then also shorten in the gait. I'll use half halts for that. It's a great tool when you start doing more advanced riding, like if you're jumping around courses and things like that. Having a really solid half halt can help. Let's say you're riding a distance and you can tell that your distance is just a little bit off and you need a little bit of a shorter stride leading into a line or a fence. Having a horse that's adjustable and responsive to the half halt it's a lifesaver sometimes, truly, and it just makes for a much nicer ride. So this is just a simple explanation of how to ride the half halt and ways that you can use it in your riding. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment for me down below, and thanks again for watching.